Please join me in welcoming world number 3, Xander Schauffele. Xander, in your 8 U.S. Open starts, you've never finished outside of the top 15. What is it about the test of U.S. Open golf that seems to suit you?
I don't know. Maybe I'm just sick and enjoy the challenge. Something about it, playing really hard, and I think a good attitude goes a long way. So it's obviously a hard thing, easier said than done. Hard to keep a good attitude through the entire stretch of 72 holes. Nonetheless, practice rounds as well. So I don't know. I think they're a lot of fun.
You've seen the course. It's obviously been a little wet here, but what's your take from it so far?
Yeah, I'm assuming it's going to firm up. Hopefully it firms up. I think it's more fun when it's firm. Yeah, I mean, whatever it is what it is. So we'll see how it goes.
Back right, Sean.
When you have greens that are abnormally fast and rough that's abnormally long, do you think the skill sets for good players in those, I guess, areas are like accentuated by setups like this, or does it kind of get leveled out when it's all abnormal to you guys?
I think he just puts an emphasis on hitting the fairway and hitting greens. So if you're a premier ball striker, you'll be licking your chops. And yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, you're legit in the fairway in the first cut, or it's pretty hard to be in the bunker and have an open shot to a green. Typically, you seem to be up in it, so you're just kind of taking your medicine. And then if you're in the rough, it's very lie dependent. So I mean, for the most part, the only control you can have is if you keep it right in front of you.
Front right, Jeff.
Xander, you kind of mentioned how tough this course is. Where does that enjoyment come from in challenging yourself against places like this?
It's a challenge. It's challenging myself to try and hit every fairway, to try and hit every green, to try and be disciplined through and through. There's gonna be a point where you lay up into a bad spot, and it goes to laying up again from that layup spot. So, if you have a decent lie, you might try and take some risk, and that's part of the fun.
Front left.
Xander, so coming off your injury and working your way back, what do you think is probably the biggest challenge working your way back, and what part of the game do you think it affected you the most?
Probably trusting it at first. I've never been hurt before, so I think it was all kind of new, just the mentality. I felt like I was playing at a pretty high level, and then I got hurt, and my expectations of what I knew I could do to where I was were very different, and accepting that was tough. So I think that was sort of the biggest sort of wake-up call for me coming back.
Thank you.
On the right, Doug, and then Dave.
What's your definition of a good attitude?
Truly being positive, or for me at least, good attitude's being level-headed. I think I look pretty level-headed when I play, but internally I might be absolutely just thrashing myself. So I think truly having a good attitude is just sort of accepting what happened and allowing yourself to be pretty much at zero to hit the next shot.
How often are you thrashing yourself, do you think?
Pretty often, to be honest, Doug.
Really?
Yeah.
Have you, and then you don't have to name names here, but have you played with someone that you could tell had a bad attitude, and what did that look like?
No, I mean, I think honestly, it's sort of even like let's take anyone that throws a tantrum. To me, I'm like, if that's who you are, and you throw one, it may affect the people around you, which sucks. But for you personally, if you get back to zero to hit your next shot because you're over it and you kind of let it go, then more power to you. I would consider that maybe having a good attitude. But there's all definitions. You can make up your own definition for that.
Stay on the right with Dave.
Not to think that you're hitting it there, but are you finding some decent lies in the rough when you do try to hit one out of there?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like I always get good lies when I go in the rough, so that's having a good attitude, Doug. So yeah, pretty much, it's always good.
I mean, are you okay with hack out rough if there's,
It's the U.S. Open, yeah.
Okay. I mean, because, some people think that's
I mean, I don't think
boring golf.
I don't think people turn the TV on to watch, some of the guys just hit like a 200-yard shot on the green. You know what I mean? I think they turn the U.S. Open to see a guy shooting 8 over and suffer. That's part of like the enjoyment of playing in the U.S. Open for viewers.
Right, but you're not playing for viewers, and people say, well, that seems boring. Hack out rough seems boring, but the rough is there to test the tournament golfer, not to, entertain the viewer.
I mean, I think, if you're a true fan of golf, it's more about what happens after the hack out.
On the left, King.
You talked about how it will be more fun if the conditions firm up, as they probably should, but just what specifically did you see out there with how it was playing today?
Yeah, I mean, the balls were just plugging. Fairways were easier to hit. There's less runoff. I feel like, take 1 for example, or 10. If you are in the rough, the way Oakmont plays is you can sort of hack something, if you're courageous enough to hack something sort of down, and if you get the correct line and a couple of good bounces, you could kind of turn what would be a nightmare into like a decent situation. And right now with it being soft, your ball's not going to sort of roll where it needs to.
Is that going to make it a little bit tougher during the tournament rounds if suddenly you're playing Oakmont at its close to firmest versus what you're seeing now?
I mean, it could. It could. I think all major championships, there's some degree of adjustments you have to make. So, whether the greens are 2-3 feet faster or the fairways are running, whoever adjusts the best with their caddy are going to play the best.
Back left, Keith.
Xander, how much time do you plan on spending on the putting green as you prepare over the next few days to try to get into shape for this event?
Yeah, I mean, my putting green is obviously essential. You feel like you have a crazy putt when you just practice on 9, but then you kind of look down on the 9th green and you're like, well, I guess this is kind of what it is. You know what I mean? It's hard to find a straight putt. It's hard to find a level putt. It's hard to find an area to do like what we'd call a speed drill. So, like I said, I mean, you just have to adjust.
Front left, Jerry.
Xander, did you play number 10? I'm just curious what the play is there with that ditch going across the fairway now.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't played it since it's been softer. But when I first played for the first time, it was firmer, and I hit 3-wood cap wedge into what I thought was a back pin. So I think the play today would probably be a 3-wood of some sort, and maybe a 9-iron or 8-iron.
Do you play short of it, or do you carry it with the 3-wood?
Oh, the ravine?
Yes.
Oh, no. I mean, I think Bryson probably the only person that would think twice about carrying it, and it might just be an iron from off the tee. I mean, I'm not sure how far the ravine is, but I might be capable of one-hopping it, which is not in my car. I don't think my caddy's going to allow me to do that.
I know you didn't play here in 16, but based on what you see, where does this course? I mean, what's a reasonable winning score out here based on what you've seen so far?
Yeah, I mean, in 16 they got some rain as well, and
Right.
From what I can remember, from what I've watched, balls were guys were stopping iron shots. Guys had a few more irons off tees. I mean, not a lot, but I remember seeing a few guys hitting, I don't know, maybe 3 or 4 irons off tees. I feel like they've lengthened those holes to where they're not. I feel like you're only hitting maybe 1 iron off a tee this week, or maybe 2. So, I think anything close to par is sort of what they want here. I mean, the members absolutely love their property, and the members absolutely want it to be over par. So, I know what they're rooting for.
Back right, Sean.
The reigning champ really loves being a YouTube golfer, and Tommy Fleetwood just started his own YouTube account. Has any
Nice.
part of you ever wanted to create a Xander Schauffele YouTube account?
Is that like a serious question, or?
All right, I knew the answer. I'm curious, actually, do you ever watch YouTube for golf purposes? Do you ever like to preview courses in that way?
Yeah. I mean, I watched some of the 16 coverage on YouTube. I would have watched it on any platform that it would have, that would have been provided. But I watched some of that coverage there just to see sort of how guys were hitting shots and how the ball was reacting. But I don't really know if there was another question attached to that.
Well,
from
what can
YouTube,
you
but
take away from that stuff?
Viewing
Yeah,
YouTube.
yeah.
I mean, it can be helpful. I've been in dark places where I've looked up swing like tip things on YouTube as well, try to make sense of it, just like every golfer has. I'll confess to it. But yeah, I'm luckily not there anymore, which is probably healthy for myself and my family. But yeah, I mean, there's a lot on there. I can tell you that much.
I agree.
We'll go Doug and Paolo on the right, and
You
then we'll
ever
go to
watched
the
The
left.
Amazing Race?
No, Doug.
Kidding.
Thanks.
I was curious.
Have you?
No, of course not.
Got it.
Kind of to what Sean was saying, you had, it seemed like a pretty good memory of here in 16. That came from YouTube, I take it? Since this was your last, since this was the last Open you missed, and frankly the last majors, how often did you watch them when you weren't playing them? How much did you sit in front of the TV and pay attention?
I mean, it depends. It depends if it was close or in 16 I would have been on the Corn Ferry Tour, so I mean, there's a pretty good chance I missed the cut at some point there. You know, I missed 9 in a row out there, so I mean, I probably would have watched some weekend golf at some point after practice. So yeah, I mean, I remember watching a few events from the hotel room with Austin on weekends, and yeah, I mean, I literally went on YouTube to watch this Sunday just to see sort of how shots were reacting and what guys were hitting off tees, and you know, and sort of how it looked.
Back right, Paolo.
Seems like with this tournament, more so than other majors, there's a lot of talk often about, you know, setup and conditions and all that. I'm curious, among the players, is that something that you discuss or think about? I mean, obviously you're thinking about it when you're strategizing for the course, but do you enjoy that aspect of it? And I guess what does it kind of ask of you in that sense from a mental standpoint?
Yeah, I mean, I'm more in the boat of, you know, part of my attitude thing is sort of we're all playing the same course, and it's going to be hard, and you may think something's unfair, but it doesn't really matter at the end of the day. And I think whoever can sort of deal with that the best is going to play well, and that's sort of the attitude I've had. So look at it, you know, as a fun challenge versus feeling like you're living a nightmare.
And generally, do you enjoy places that I guess are closer to par, or maybe where par feels like a better score than when it's, you know, 15, 17 under?
Yeah, you just got to get yourself there mentally. You know, there's times where, I mean, the better you hit it, the more likely you are to feel like you might be able to, you know, like 9, for example. I mean, if you hit a driver in the fairway on 9 every day, you know, landing your ball into a pretty severely pitched green, like you might feel like you can birdie that hole a couple days. I know that's kind of weird to say with how like steep the green is. Birdies just shouldn't even think about it. If you like pull or push an iron and it goes to tap in, like you should be stoked about it. But at the end of the day, you know, like if you're take Scotty Schauffele for example, he's in the middle of every fairway. Like there takes a serious amount of discipline to play away from pins and hit really good shots to sort of safe targets, and that's what it takes to play well at U.S. Opens.
Last one here on the left.
Have you got a look at the par 3 8th, and what kind of strategy do you have on a hole that could reach 300 yards this week?
Yeah, I mean, it's just a golf hole. I mean, if you could just peel par away from it, you just figure out how best to make a score on it. I think, you know, you might hurt a few egos if you see guys putting a driver or some long clubs in there. But at the end of the day, I mean, however you feel like you're going to make the best score there is how you should play it, whether it's laying up with an iron out to the right and trying to wedge it close, or you know, being aggressive with the driver. However you feel like you can make a good score is how you should play the hole.
Thanks for the time, Xander. Good luck this week.
Thanks.